Hello, everyone. I hope you learned something in the previous session that we had. So we will now move on with the Henry system classification, specifically in determining the key classification. So when we talk about key classification class, it has something to do with the reads count of the first loop that appears in the set of fingers. So just like in here, in this given example, we could see that there are 10 fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So the ridge count of the first loop that appears at the set of fingers will become as your key classification. So you notice here, key classification, the answer is 15. Where did I get 15 here? So you would notice that the first loop that appear in here is located at the right thumb. So the ridge count of the first loop in here is 15. So you just get the ridge count. That is how you would determine the key classification. But what if there are loop in here at the right little, left thumb, left middle, and left ring? So these are no longer considered because the first loop appears at the right thumb, so you just get this. And usually those loops that appear at the right little will now be excluded because this will be used in the final classification. So did you get now? So again, I repeat, key classification, you consider the ridge count of the first loop that appears at in the set of fingers, but you have to exclude the little fingers. Okay, let us move on with the next final classification. So you would again notice that number 5 is indicated here, that this serves as the final classification. So you would notice here, this is whirl, whirl, loop, loop. But in final classification, consider the loop that appears at the right little. So the ridge count of the right little is 5. That is why final classification is 5. So you just get again the ridge count. So that is now the reason why we have to do ridge counting of loops, because it is being utilized for us to determine the Henry system classification of your fingers. So that concludes the Henry system. In the previous, we started with primary, then we go to secondary, then subsecondary, then major, key, and final classification. So how does the Henry system classification looks like in the end? So this is now the classification formula. So you would notice that the key and the final classification do not have denominator. It would always be given emphasis as the numerator. So just like in key, the 14, final is 8. So major classification, this means that L over S. So the right thumb is considered as large and the left thumb is small. So this is also the primary classification. So 25 over 12. And the secondary, we are referring to the capital letter group that appears at the index finger, which is R over W. And the presence of small letter group are considered, wherein at the right, we have small r, radial loop, and we have a small letter A, which represents a plain arc. So in subsecondary, we consider the fingers at the index, middle, and ring, and we take a look at the ridge tracing and ridge count of these fingers based on the classification. And then the final, we just obtain the ridge count of the right little finger. But there are also other rules that could be applied in cases that there is no loop at the right little. So we could obtain the ridge count at the left little. So this is your Henry system classification. Okay, we will try to take a look more of this. We'll have to deal with another slide so that we can obtain more ideas on how Henry system classification is being established. Okay, we have more exercise in here. Okay, so this, I think this was my example in the previous session that we had. So if we try to take a look, another example, let us try this. So again, let's go back to primary. So the rule is that primary classification, we have considered the total or the summation of all the numerical values that are assigned to the world patterns. So just like plain world, central packet loop world, double loop world, and accidental world. And you have to consider the numerical value that is assigned to every fingers. Okay, so let us try. So in the right thumb, we have W. Are we going to consider this in the primary, especially to the denominator? Yes, because it belongs to where? So the numerical value of the right thumb is 16. So you obtain 16. You place it here. And then we proceed with number 3, right middle. Are we going to include this letter D? Yes, because this is a double loop world. So again, we just copy the numerical value, which is 8. You put it there. So we proceed with number 5. Are we going to consider this in the primary? No, because it is not a word. So we proceed with number 7. Again, radial loop is not a word. So let's just disregard that. Then we proceed with number 9. Again, this is not a word pattern, so it will not be considered. So let us then take a look. So we will now sum up the numerical values where we obtain from right thumb and the right middle. So 16 plus 8 equals 24. So again, be reminded that we have to always add 1. So 24 plus 1 will become 25. Yes? Then we are done with the denominator. So we now proceed with numerator. So you better listen, better follow, because you will be applying this also in your laboratory and other activities. Now we proceed with numerator. So we will consider now those patterns that belongs to 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. So if you could remember your odd, even numbers. Okay. So in number 2, we have at the right index. Are we going to consider this in the primary for your numerator? Yes, because this belongs to world family and it represents accidental world. So you have to obtain again the numerical value of 16. Okay, next. Right ring, number 4 in here. No, this will not be considered because it's not a world. So we proceed with number 6 at the left thumb, which has a numerical value of 4. So are we going to consider this as a world pattern? Yes, because it represents a central packet loop world. Okay, we obtain the numerical value of 4, write it here, and then we proceed with number 8. Are we going to include the pattern at number 8? No, because it is not a word. Then we proceed with number 10. Are we going to include this? Yes, because it is a word and the numerical value is 1. So you sum it up, okay? 16 plus 4, 20 plus 1 equals 21. Again, add the pre-established fraction for numerator, that is 1, and it will become 22. So the primary classification in here is 22 over 5. So can you follow, class? Hey, you just be patient enough so that you could successfully follow the rules on how to obtain primary classification. Let's proceed. The secondary again. So in this example, secondary. Again, we remember that in secondary, we consider the capital letter group that appears at the index fingers, the right and the left. And after the capital letter group, we proceed for the determination of the small letter group that belongs to ATR, plain arc, tented arc, and radial loop that are located in the other fingers. So now, let us take a look with capital letter group. So automatic, we could just copy X over R. So it should be in proper column, X over R. That would now serve as your capital letter group. And now let us try to locate if there are small letter group. So these are not in small letter group because these are ulnar, okay? So what about C? No, because this belongs to world pattern and it is not within the composition or bracket of small letter group as required in secondary. So we proceed with this. This is an ulnar, so disregard that. And yes, we have letter a plain arc that appears at the left ring. So since there is a pattern between the capital and small letter group, this pattern will now be represented as dash. So, and you will now copy small letter A. So meaning this letter A is located now at left ring. So this is how you will represent your secondary classification. Understood? Copy those at the index, XR, and then locate for small letter group A, T, and R. Next, we proceed. Example here. First example, this is how you will write it. So PC and SC. We will take it step by step. So 11 over 8, then U over W, UR over W. So this is how you would write. 22 over 25, then X over R dash A. So these are the answers now for the primary and secondary classification. Okay. Let's have a try on this. Do you know how to do it? So let us try. Let's start first with primary. Are we going to consider this? No. No. Number 3, yes, the value is 8. So you just write now 8 on your paper. Come on, write 8. And then 5, yes, that the value is 4 because this is a world. So you have to consider 4. Then 7. Are we going to consider this? Yes, because it is a word and the value is 2. Then 9. Are we going to consider? No, because this is an ulnar loop. So you disregard that. So you just add 8, 4. So that will become 12. Then 2. So that will become 14. And that is 14. So now remember, what is the pre-established fraction again to be added? Plus 1. So 14 plus 1 is 15. That would become as your denominator. And in your 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Now, for the numerator, we have here letter C. Yes, that is capital letter group. And it belongs to a word family. And that is central pocket loop. And consider the numerical value, which is 16. Okay. Then in number 4, this is double of word. Yes. Again, copy number 8, the value. Then 6, no, because it is not a word. Then 8, yes, this is an accidental word. So the value is 2. And then 10, yes, because it is a plain word and the value is 1. So you will come up with this. So 16, then plus 8, 24. Then in here, 26, then plus 1 is 28, then 27, and then the pre-established fraction, you have to add again, that would become 28. So ulitin natin, 16, 8, 24, then 26, then plus 1, 27, plus the pre-established fraction, and that would become 28. So what is the answer now? You have to recall that. Okay. For the secondary classification, what is the capital letter group here? You know? So consider the patterns that appear at the index finger. So the secondary will be C over W for the capital letter group. And what about the small letter group? We have letter A, okay, and no more. So A is C over W. So that is how you would indicate the PC and the SC. So what about in here? Let us take a look. Denominator, 16, no. Here, no, number 1. 3, yes. 8, okay. Then 5, no. Then 7, no, because it's not a word. Then 9, yes, it's a word, so the value is 1. So we only consider right middle and left ring. So 8 plus 1 is 9, plus 1 is 10. That would become as your denominator. And for your numerator, in the primary, we have at the right index, no, no, no. Here, number 8 is yes. The value is 2. 10, yes, the value is 1. 2 plus 1 is 3. Then you again add plus 1. That would become 4. So that is how you obtain now your primary. So in the secondary, you will just have T over A. So this is also a small letter group because this is radial. So RT, magkatabi yan. And in here, this is also a radial loop since it is at the left. So R will be written here. So that is how you simply obtain the primary and secondary classification. So you have to familiarize yourself on the rule. So anyway, I had already discussed this example in the previous session. We're just coming up with more examples. So just like in here. So again, in subsecondary, we have to remember that we consider the index, middle, and ring of the right and left hand. So index, since it is a central pocket loop, and there's no need for the ridge count, you just copy the tracing. So the tracing is inner, it is I. So copy I. Then in here, it is a radial loop having a ridge count of 15. So it is at the middle. So where can we look for 15 in here at the middle? Is it I or O? So the answer is O. Kaya we copy O. We copied O in here. O. Then at the right ring is 10 ridge count. So if you try to take a look at this scale, 10 will fall as inner. That is why it is I. So can you get it? You will just base on the scale provided. But for pearl patterns, if you just consider the ridge tracing, if it is I, M, or O, you just copy. But if it is loop, consider the ridge count and you have to refer to the scale provided depending on the location. If it is index, middle, and ring. So for the denominator, in here, a double loop pearl. Okay, just copy the tracing, which is O out there. So the letter T in here, since it is not applicable since this is not applicable for ridge count and ridge tracing, you just represent it with a dash. For those in the arc pattern, plain arc and tented arc must be represented with a dash. And then in here, there is a plain pearl. So you just consider the tracing meeting, which is letter M, just copy letter M. So this is how simply you would get the sub-secondary classification. Can you do it, class? I hope you can do it. Another example here. In the index at the right, we have W. The ridge tracing is M. Right middle, again M. In right ring, it is a central pocket loop, so ridge trace is O. Just copy it. Then in the left, we have at the index 7. So index 7 falls on I. So just copy I. Then at the middle, 10. Okay, falls on I. Then here is 5. So where will it fall? At the ring, it is still I. That's why triple I. MMO over II. Very simple. You can do it in an instant time. Okay. So major, referring again to the thumb. The left thumb governs the classification of the right thumb. So these are the scales. If you happen to take the symbol in this aspect, if the symbol at your right thumb is medium, you will use this to establish the classification of the right thumb. If it is large at the left thumb, you will use this scale for the classification of the right thumb. You will just refer into the thumbs of the finger. So yun lang. If it is small, medium, or large. SML. Major classification. 19. You always start with the left. 19 falls under large, 17 or more. So automatic, you go with the right thumb using this scale. So the ridge count in here is 15. So meaning it falls within small. So that is how you would obtain your major classification. S over L. The classifications, just like what I made mention, the ridge count of the first loop. So in here, 18 is the ridge count. Why? Because the first loop appears at the right middle. So we can no longer consider this because the first loop is at the right middle. So you just obtain the ridge count, and that is 18. Understood? Very easy, very easy. The final classification, this is 5. Just get the ridge count of the right little. And here, it is 6. Because the right little is a whorl, so what we will obtain is the ridge count of the loop that appears at the left. So you can use this as your final classification. Again, in here, since there are 2 loops, you just consider the ridge count at the right little. Just copy the ridge count. So, yan. This is how the Henry system classification is being completed. And this is the classification formula. So I hope with this, I've given you before in the first session the rules. And now we go over with some examples so that you could master. Then I hope you learn something and try to do this at home. Okay? Thank you and have a good day. Keep safe, everyone. I hope to see you again next session. Just like, subscribe, and share my YouTube channel. Jonah Badwa, your humble teacher. Okay? So it's just a matter of trying your best to keep learning. So to continue also, I just would like to present how you would give the classification in case there are amputations. There are fingers that are cut or inborn, so this is how you would treat them. You would try to, whatever pattern that is present at the other hand will serve as the pattern at the other hand, sa left or right. If this is amputated, what will you do? You have to use this to establish the finger at the right index. So it's just a matter of being patient enough to understand the rules. Okay? So yan po. Sana natutunan nyo at you keep trying at home. Thank you. So more examples, but you can have your own examples at home. And please try to read your handout in our Canvas and at the same time, your module. Thank you and have a nice day, everyone. Signing off, Dr. J.